Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It helps more than you realize, and it allows us to keep bringing you deeply researched, emotionally honest stories about Hollywood legends and the lives they rarely speak about. Now let's begin. At 95 years old, Clint Eastwood has lived long enough to watch admiration fade into distance and loyalty quietly disappear. Time has stripped away the need to be polite, and with age has come a rare honesty. Clint was never the loudest man in the room, never one to explain himself, and certainly never one to chase forgiveness. He carried disagreements silently, letting decades pass without comment. But behind that calm exterior were moments that shaped him, disappointed him, and in some cases wounded him deeply. These are not petty grudges or tabloid feuds. These are fractures that formed through betrayal, clashing beliefs, and creative battles that never healed. Each name represents a turning point, not just in Clint's career, but in how he viewed people, power, and legacy. Clint Eastwood grew up believing that work spoke louder than words. That belief followed him into Hollywood, where silence was often his shield. While others defended themselves through interviews and headlines, Clint chose restraint. But restraint does not mean forgetting. Some wounds stay buried, not because they are small, but because they are too personal to display. As Clint aged, he didn't become softer. He became clearer. He understood which moments mattered and which relationships permanently changed how he viewed the industry. Fame didn't harden him. Experience did. And the older he became, the less patience he had for hypocrisy, public performance, and moral lectures from people he believed misunderstood his intent. The 6 people tied to these disappointments didn't all hurt him in the same way. Some challenged his integrity, some challenged his craft, and one challenged his loyalty. Together, they form a map of the emotional terrain Clint Eastwood has walked for nearly a century. The tension with Spike Lee cut deeper than most people realized. It wasn't simply a disagreement over casting or historical perspective. For Clint, it felt like an attack on his honesty as a storyteller. When Spike publicly accused him of excluding black soldiers from his World War II films, Clint felt cornered. He believed he had followed historical record precisely, and the accusation suggested something far more serious than oversight. It suggested intent. Clint responded sharply, breaking his usual calm, and the words he used echoed louder than he intended. But that moment wasn't isolated. Years earlier, Spike had questioned Clint's right to direct a film about Charlie Parker, implying ownership over certain stories. Clint never believed stories belonged to one group alone. He believed responsibility mattered more than identity. That philosophical divide never closed. While Spike later acknowledged Clint's talent, the damage was already done. Clint doesn't forgive accusations he believes are unfair, especially when they challenge his integrity rather than his skill. With Dustin Hoffman, the conflict was quieter but no less permanent. Clint didn't dislike Hoffman personally. He disliked what Hoffman represented on set. To Clint, acting was about instinct, timing, and emotional truth captured quickly. To Hoffman, it was about dismantling oneself entirely to find a character. Clint believed that too much thinking killed honesty. He ran efficient sets, avoided chaos, and trusted the first or second take. Hoffman's process felt disruptive, emotionally draining, and excessive. Clint watched from a distance as directors struggled to manage Hoffman's perfectionism, and it confirmed everything Clint already believed. He didn't want that energy near his work. He never said it publicly, never attacked Hoffman by name, but the decision was firm. Some artists simply don't belong in the same room. For Clint, Hoffman represented an approach that exhausted everyone involved, and that was something Clint had no interest in tolerating. Barbra Streisand represented a different kind of divide. Their tension wasn't loud or public, but it was deeply rooted. Both were powerful creative forces, yet their methods could not have been more different. Barbra demanded control, precision, and endless refinement. Clint believed in momentum, trust, and restraint. Where she sculpted every detail through dozens of takes, Clint preferred to let scenes breathe. But beneath the creative differences was something more complex. Barbra fought for authority in an industry that constantly questioned her leadership. Clint walked onto sets already trusted. Their realities were not equal, and that shaped how they worked. When the bridges of Madison County passed from Barbra's hands into Clint's, it quietly symbolized that divide. Clint never criticized her publicly, but he never forgot how incompatible their philosophies were. Some differences aren't about ego. They're about fundamentally opposing views of control, power, and process. John Wayne's disapproval struck Clint in a way no one else's did. Wayne wasn't just another actor. He was an icon Clint had admired since childhood. But as Clint's films began to question the myths Wayne had built his career defending, the tension became unavoidable. Wayne saw Clint's westerns as cynical, even disrespectful. Clint saw them as honest. When Wayne sent that letter condemning High Plains Drifter, it hurt more than Clint ever admitted. It wasn't just criticism. It was rejection from someone he respected. Clint understood that they came from different eras, shaped by different Americas. Wayne wanted heroes to be symbols. Clint wanted them to be human. They never reconciled, never collaborated, and when Wayne passed away, Clint carried that disappointment quietly. It wasn't anger. It was the loss of shared ground. Fritz Monet's was the most painful fracture of all. This wasn't a professional disagreement with a distant colleague. This was a lifelong friendship that collapsed under pressure. They grew up together, built careers together, and trusted each other completely. When Heartbreak Ridge unraveled due to conflicts with the military, Clint felt exposed and betrayed. But what truly broke him were the words Monet's later shared publicly. To Clint, loyalty was sacred. Hearing criticism from someone he considered family cut deeper than any industry rivalry ever could. There was no public feud, no dramatic confrontation, just silence. And silence, in this case, meant goodbye. Clint never replaced that bond. Some losses don't fade with time. They simply become part of who you are. George Clooney represents the final divide, and perhaps the most modern one. Clint respected Clooney's talent and intelligence, but their views on fame, responsibility, and activism could not coexist. Clooney embraced public political engagement. Clint believed artists should let their work speak. He didn't want Hollywood to become a lecture hall. He didn't resent Clooney's beliefs. He rejected the blending of celebrity and moral authority. To Clint, that shift symbolized a Hollywood he no longer recognized. They never argued publicly, never insulted each other, but the distance was clear. Respect remained, but alignment did not. Clint never chased relevance. He chased authenticity. And when those paths diverged, he chose silence once again. After nearly a century in Hollywood, Clint Eastwood understands something most people never learn. Success doesn't protect you from disappointment. Talent doesn't guarantee loyalty, and age doesn't erase memory. The names he never forgave aren't reminders of bitterness. They're markers of growth, loss, and belief. Each one changed how he moved forward. Each one left a scar. And maybe that's the cost of longevity. You don't just outlive people. You outlive versions of yourself. Now it's your turn. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Whose side do you understand more? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep telling the stories Hollywood never tells.